Okay, and that typical. Yep. 1 second. Grab. You are on the wrong window. Boop. There. Fixed it. I fixed it. Okay, let's see. Minimize that. Welcome back, everyone. It's Vexing Cat, and we return to Robin Hood. Hey, Lasada, welcome in. Yes, I did. I did indeed fixed the position of my veto tube. Okay, let me set that right there. Okay, um, we are going to be starting off on chapter 19 today of Paul Creswick's Robin Hood. So let's get started, I think. I've got my water, check. I've got ginger ale. That is the most ginger thing I've ever tried in my life. It's by Reeds, Reeds, and it is extra, extra gingery, which I find amusing. But it's good stuff. Just very strongly ginger. Whew! Yeah, it's got a little burn, a little heat on the back end on that one. All right, so we start with chapter 19. We'll make sure that this is working correctly. Down, up, down. We're good. Huzzah! Chapter 19 of Robin Hood and His Adventures. Robin woke from a heavy slumber. There we go. Robin woke from a heavy slumber at daybreak. A faint noise from without the buttery disturbed him. He very quietly rose up and, picking his way across the room, came to the entrance to the kitchens. He opened one of the doors and found a passage, gray lit by the first gleam of dawn. At the end of it was the figure of a man. His height revealed him for Little John. Over his shoulders was a short sack. Seeing Robin, he beckoned to him, then whispered his plans. But Robin did not intend to leave Nottingham so soon. Go, Little John, and take that which is your sack. I shall bring it to you, gossip, spoke Little John in a muffled voice. To your haunts in Barnesdale, you shall see who is the better servant, Stuteley or myself. Here have I the sheriff's plate. An audacious notion flashed upon Robin. Take it to our cave in Barnesdale, honest John, said he, swiftly indicating the sack. And harkye, I will follow later with such a guest as never our greenwood has yet carried. Lay out a royal feast and kill one of the fattest bucks. Take my dagger to token to them that I have sent you. Who will you bring with you, gossip? Not my lord of Hereford. I will bring Monsieur himself, said Robin boldly. Leave the business in my hands. Go now, if you know a safe road from out of this place. I have a friend at the gate who will ask me no questions, answered Little John softly. But you? My wit shall lead me out from Nottingham, Robin told him. Little John let himself out by one of the postern doors, and found means to convey the sheriff's plate through the streets. Afterwards, when he reached the gate, he continued to win his passage by pure statesmanship, pretending that he had been sent out at the strange hour to snare young rabbits for his lord's breakfast. Meanwhile, Robin returned to the buttery, and waited for events to shape themselves. Ere long the butchers began yawning and quarrelling betwixt themselves, and Robin artfully persuaded them, by setting one against the other, to a free fight. The servants separated them, and in anger bade them all begone. Robin besought them to let him stay, saying that he wished an audience with my lord the sheriff. "Out upon you, pestilent fellow!" cried one of the servants. "You scum of the earth, this comes of hobnobbing with such rascals. Go hence quickly with your fellows, or we will break all your bones." So were they all bustled out into the cold streets, and Robin, in his butcher's smock, went back, as if very crestfallen, to his empty cart and lean horse. In due season the servants found that the sheriff's new kitchen hand was gone, and with him the gold plate. Then they remembered how he had been found with the cook. Roger was plucked out of his bed with all his bruises and wounds upon him to give evidence before Monsieur, who was in a great fume. All that spite and jealousy might do Roger performed with gusto, and so fixed the blame upon Little John that no one else was even suspected. Roger would have now spoken as to Barnesdale, and betrayed the secret caves to the sheriff, but he had once before persuaded them to search the cave near Gamewell, with ill results. "Enough of these tales," snarled the sheriff. "Keep them for the bishop's ears. I am concerned for my plate, and will recover it ere I put forth on any other enterprise." He sent out his archers and men-at-arms with such an incoherent description of Little John that near all the tall men of Nottingham were brought under arrest. The gatekeeper, who had been so foolish as to open to Little John, became so fearful of the sheriff's anger that, when they questioned him, he vowed by all the saints that he had clapped eyes on no such fellow in his life. Monsieur, getting more and more enraged, chanced at last upon the butchers. He bade them all to be brought before him. Small comfort did he gather from any, least of all from Robin, who behaved in so foolish a manner before the great man that all who had not believed him crazy before were now well sure of it. He would persist in talking to the irate lord of his own affairs, how he had just inherited a farm with many head of cattle, such beasts! How he had sold some of them in the market on the previous day for large moneys, how he intended to always sell at Nottingham, since there the people were so rich and generous. "I have full 510 horned beasts upon my land that I will sell for a just figure," said Robin. "I, to him who will pay me in right money, will I sell them for 20 pieces. Is that too much to ask, lording?" Monsieur, in the midst of his frenzy, suddenly quieted down. This was the idiot butcher of whom people had been chattering. No use to bluster and threaten him. 510 fat beasts for 20 pieces. Was ever such a fool? I'll buy your beasts. I'll buy. I'll buy your beasts of you. Shouldn't it be off? "I'll buy your beasts of you, butcher," said Monsieur, "and will give you twice the money you ask." At this Robin was quite overcome, and fell to praising him to the skies. For the moment the missing plate was forgotten. "Drive in your beasts, butcher," said Monsieur. They are but at Gamewell, excellence," said Robin, "not more than a mile beyond it at most. Will you not come and choose your own beasts? The day is fine." The sheriff dismissed all but Robin, in order that they might settle it quietly. If he did not close upon this bargain straightway, it would be lost to him. After some hesitation, "I will go with you, butcher," spoke Master Monsieur. After all, what had he to fear? Surely no man, be he ever so wicked and desperate an outlaw, would dare to lay hands upon the sheriff of Nottingham. Monsieur had all along suspected the Bishop of Hereford's story. There were no robbers in Sherwood now. The bishop had invented the tale in order to cover up some disgraceful carousal. carousel. It's carousel, but it's weird in this context. The bishop had invented the tale in order to cover up some disgraceful carousel, and had bribed his men. It had been a plot by which my lord of Hereford had been able to foist himself and his company upon the sheriff, and so gain both free lodging in Nottingham and save giving in charity to the poor folk of the town. Thus, Master Monceux argued swiftly within himself. "Get ready, butcher, for," he said briskly, "I will join you in a few minutes." He laid a solemn and dreadful charge upon the captain of his men-at-arms, and upon those of his household to find him his plate ere he returned. He swore that their own... Hi! Welcome in, Brem. He swore that their own goods should be seized and sold if they failed him in this matter. Then he affected to be going in secret search himself. So the two of them, without guard, went off together, Robin driving his shambling horse and rickety cart beside the sheriff's little fat brown pony. They passed through the gate, and Monceux left word that his archers were to follow him to Gamewell so soon as they had returned from their searching for his plate. Robin was very gay, and kept the sheriff amused with his foolish chattering. Monceux congratulated himself more and more. They had drawn nigh to Gamewell, and to that little gravel pit wherein was one of the hidden passages to the Barnsdale caves. Peering irresolute through the tree trunks far off to their right, Robin spied a herd of deer. They stood and trembled at sight of Robin and the sheriff, preparing to stampede. Robin guessed that they had been driven by the greenwood men all that day, that perchance Stuteley and the rest were near the beasts in ambush. Reining in his lean horse, he turned in his cart to call to the sheriff. "See, Excellence, here are my beasts, coming to welcome me. Now choose those which your eyes like, and pay me the gold." Monceux saw that he had been duped, and flew into a terrible passion. Robin cut his reproaches very short, however, and taking off his butcher's smock, blew on his horn that short, queer signal. Jesus. The sheriff turned to fly, but had not traveled 100 yards ere, hearing an uncomfortable hissing sound made by an arrow, as it flew just over his head, thought it better to stop. Robin had hidden his bow and quiver in the straw at the bottom of the butcher's cart. He now stood up and sped his shafts all round and about the poor sheriff. Then Monceux reined up his fat pony and surrendered himself grudgingly, trying to bargain all the while. "If I give you my horse and a golden penny, will you let me go, butcher?" said he, whiningly. "Did I not treat you well last night, giving you a fair supper and much ale? This is ill requiting my usage of you, butcher." What a weird turn of phrase. "This is ill requiting my usage of you, butcher." Suddenly he saw himself surrounded by the men of the greenwood, headed by Stuteley. Robin nodded, and in a moment the sheriff was seized and hurried away to the gravel pit, and his pony was set galloping in the direction of Nottingham with empty saddle. My goodness. The greenwood men soon brought their captive through the dangerous passage, having first blindfolded him. Within 5 hours of his departure from Nottingham, my lord the sheriff found himself in a strange, unknown part of Sherwood, seated amongst 210 wild fellows, to a wilder meal of venison, brown bread, and wine. With a knock of surprise, he saw that the hot, juicy portion of the king's beast handed to him as his share was smoking fragrantly upon the golden plate. He glanced around from the merry faces of the lawless men to the dishes and plates from which they were eating. All were of gold and very familiar. His rolling eye encountered that of Little John's, coolly helping himself to a second serve. "You rascal! You rogue!" sputtered Monsieur. "You scum of the kitchens! Where is my plate? You shall be shred into little pieces for this trick, and you also, false butcher." "Nay, excellence," said a gentle voice near to him, "this is no butcher, but rather Master Robin o' the Hood, a good yeoman and right Saxon. Some call him Robin of Locksley. Let me fill your goblet, excellence, for you have spilled all the wine." Monsieur glared at the speaker, a handsome lad, dressed gaily in a page's costume. The sheriff's frown would have frightened most people, but the dark-haired boy only laughed and tossed his head in a queerly fascinating way. The sheriff, relaxing, held out his goblet and smiled back upon the page. "Well done, Master Gilbert of Blois," cried Robin, who sat at the sheriff's left hand. "Now tell me how you discovered me, and I will love you." The lad blushed furiously. "I knew you from the first, Robin o' the Hood," he answered defiantly. "In truth?" questioned Robin slyly, and with his own suspicions growing. No wonder he had seen nothing of Marian in Nottingham town. "In truth, well, no," submitted the page. "Let me fill your tankard, friend. But very soon I did discover you. Is this the stag that you killed, Robin o' the Hood?" he added innocently. Robin nodded, and the sheriff flashed another look of anger upon him. "Sit you beside me, Gilbert," Robin ordered. "I am very fain to have speech with you." Marian, with her woman's intuition, knew from his tone that she also was discovered. Yet she braved it out. "I will fill all the cups, Robin o' the Hood," she said firmly, with an adorable little shake of her black curls. "Then we'll hear your adventures as a Nottingham butcher, which I see you are dying to tell to us." Plot twist! It was Marian the whole time. The page skipped lightly from under Robin's threatening hand, and the merry men laughed loud and long. "He calls you Robin o' the Hood, master," cried John Barry, roaring like a bull. For some reason this nickname tickled him mightily. He kept repeating it in all kinds of tones, and those about him began to laugh also. "'Tis a very excellent name," said Robin, a little vexed. "A merry name, a man's name, and a name to my heart. I do adopt it from this day, for it is not Robin Fitzooth of Locksley dead. My lord the sheriff can tell you that he is, for he has burned him. Laugh at it, or like it, friends, which you will, but pledge me in it, for I have paid the reckoning." Little John, Stuteley, and Much rose to their feet together in their hurry to be first. The others were not slow in following them. "Long life to you and happiness, Robin o' the Hood. Here's fortune's best, and confusion to all your enemies. Huzzah, Robin o' the Hood!" The darkening woods echoed it back to them. "Robin o' the Hood! Robin Hood!" "You will have to be christened, gossip," said Little John with an air of importance, "and surely I know the man who will be sponsor. But you spoke just now of a reckoning, and I do see that our guest is become fidgety. Shall I tot it up? Shall I tot up the bill for him?" "Do so, friend." The sheriff appeared uneasy at this. "I have not my purse with me," he began apologetically. "How did you propose paying me for my beast?" asked Robin. "Why, that is, I have of course a small sum about me." "What is that sum, gossip?" questioned Little John very kindly. "'Tis no more than 40 pieces of gold," said Monsieur, recollecting that he had named this amount to Robin. "Is that all?" "I have not another penny piece, good Master Hood," replied the sheriff. If that is true, then you shall pay no more than 10 pieces of gold for your entertainment, excellence, decreed Robin. Speak, I soothly, men of the green wood. The sheriff the sheriff should swear by his patron saint that he will never more molest us, said one of the company wisely, and this addition was carried unanimously. So be it then, cried Little John, approaching Monsieur. Now swear by your life and your patron saint. I will swear it by St. George, who is patron of us all, cried the fat sheriff vigorously, and he swore that never again would he disturb or distress them in Sherwood. Let me catch any of you out of it, thought he to himself. Then he paid them 10 pieces of gold, and having done this, rose up to go. It was already full dusk. Gossip, observed Little John reprovingly, you did not hand me your wallet, but took out instead the 10 gold pieces. Let me see for myself that 30 remain. Mayhap some evil person has robbed you unbeknown. Nay, I do not think that, said the sheriff quickly. I take great care of all my belongings. Yet, you may have been despoiled, persisted Little John. Permit me to satisfy myself in this company that you have had an honorable treatment in these happy woods. With a groan, Monsieur yielded his wallet, and Stuteley counted out the money in it with a loud voice. Otherwise the company was silent. There is another wallet, gossip, said the inexorable Little John, pointing towards the sheriff's belt. In all they counted out 100 gold pieces. We must add another knot to the foot of our bill, excellence, said Robin gravely. Be of good heart, that is naught but nothing. £10 and a knot added to it is a most reasonable account for such royal fare. Take then this money which you first gave me. We will keep the wallets. "'Tis monstrous! 'Tis an enormity!" bellowed Monsieur, flying out. "Already you have stolen my plate, and now would strip me utterly. 'Tis rank villainy, and I promise you all." "You have promised enough tonight, Sheriff," retorted Robin. "Away with him, Stuteley, and go you too, Little John. Take our guest through the secret path so far as the roadway in Nottingham, by Nottingham Gate. There he may find his archers waiting for him. Be speedy." They nodded and grasped the struggling sheriff by either arm. His eyes were speedily bandaged by little Gilbert, and he made an undignified exit, whilst the rest busied themselves removing the remains of the feast. Robin spoke quietly with the page. "Since Little John has happily returned to us, Master Gilbert," said Robin, "'tis clear that he will want his quarters again, so I must move you." "It matters not, Robin. You are over young to consort with such wild company, Gilbert," Robin continued, "and so I will take you to a safe asylum, unless, of course, you would sooner return into Nottingham." "I have now no real home in Nottingham," said Marian, frankly. "My father has gone to London to find us a home there. He has been offered a post in the king's household. So soon as he had departed, they sent for me to attend at the sheriff's castle, saying I was to become maid to the demoiselle Marie. This I would not, and so escaped in the early dawn of the day." "I have a friend at Gamewell," said Robin diffidently. "In sooth, it is mine own uncle, and he surely would not refuse me in this. Will you go with me, Gilbert, at once? Soon it will be night indeed." "I'll go anywhere with you, Robin," answered the little page. Yet Robin would not affect to recognize Marian, though his heart was thumping in his body. He led her silently, hastily, through the strange passages towards Gamewell, thinking how he should bring a welcome for the maid. "You are not talkative, friend Robin," murmured his companion once. "My heart is too full for speech, Gilbert," said Robin softly then, and this answer seemed to satisfy Master Gilbert of Blois. Under the night he smiled happily to himself. "Is this your bad hand, Robin?" he asked presently. "The one that I did wound? Poor fingers, I am sorry now. Can you forgive me, Robin?" Interesting. So, Maid Marian was Gilbert the whole time, and she didn't want to be a maid servant to Mademoiselle Marie from the sheriff's daughter, which, considering how evil she is, I can't blame her. But let's see, we are on to chapter 20. And for those of you just settling in, we are reading Robin Hood and His Adventures by Paul Creswick. And let's see. I think we'll run into one illustration today during the course of the reading. Um, there will be, there's two more after that. There's a total of 3 illustrations left in the book by N.C. Wythe. Which, by the way, amazing artist. Have really enjoyed seeing his work as I've gone along. But, all right. So we've got chapter 20, and as a friendly reminder, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever you need to relax and enjoy the story. Mm-hmm. And I, likewise, will do the same. Okay. Chapter 20. When they had reached the little hut near by the pleasance, Robin bade her stay. I now must play Yellow Lady, said he lightly. She is the spirit of this grove, and under her guise I can venture near to the house. Lend me your cloak. The color will not matter on so dark a night. I will not be left alone here, said Marian at this, with great decision, not for all the Montfichets in Christendom. I'll go with you. They crossed the pleasance side by side. Lights burned within Gamewell to guide them. I am not afraid, Robin, announced Master Gilbert of Blois courageously. You know I am no coward. Take my hand, then, said Robin. I like to feel that you're with me. Yet you have but known me a day, said Marian, trying to peep at him. Her tone was questioning and full of pretty malice. He had a mind then to take her in his arms, but again forbore. Be silent now, whispered he. I must proclaim myself. I have scarce knowledge of the servants here, my chief friend being old Warrenton, and he is in the greenwood. Let us go back there, suggested his companion. I am willing to risk the wild beasts and the sheriff's wrath. 'Tis no place for you, said Robin. Here you will be both safe and comfortable. I do not like the shape of this house, argued Marian. I do not feel that I will be happy in it. It is a home worthy to be your sister's, let alone yours, Master Gilbert. Now be done with your grumbling, for here you shall stay until your father's return. At this she made a grimace, but obeyed him meekly notwithstanding. As they drew near to the courtyard, Robin bade her follow him cautiously until they had made a full circle of it, and crept round to the front of the hall. By good fortune the bridge was down. Old Gamewell had no fear of the world, it would seem. They might pretend now that they had crossed to the hall from the road. Robin wound his horn. Robin wound his horn suddenly and confidently. The dogs within Gamewell began to bark and growl, and presently they heard sounds of approach. In a moment more the doors were opened, and they saw a servant armed with a lathorn and a stick. So lathorn, for those of you that haven't been here before, lathorn is an archaic form of lantern. Learned that, I think, in the first 5 chapters. I would have audience with Master Montfichet, said Robin in a bold voice. Pray take me to him at once. Do you come from Nottingham? Asked the man civilly. I left there this day, replied Robin. Follow me, said the servant briefly. He waited until they were safely inside, then closed the doors carefully. He led them across the court to the inner doors. Here another fellow was in waiting, also carrying a light. These are travellers from Nottingham, desiring audience of Master Gamewell, observed the first servant. Your names, gentles? asked the second. I am Robin o' the Hood, and this is Master Gilbert of Blois, said Robin at once. They were escorted into the great hall, and there sat beside the open hearth was the old squire, George. He made a pathetic figure. Robin felt his heart go out to him. Yet, even when he had satisfied himself in a single glance as to the identity of one of the late coming guests, Montfichet gave no sign. His was a strange nature, and he could not forgive Robin his innocent deceit. Sir, said Robin respectfully, I do feel shame in coming before you without waiting for your word of welcome. My errand must be my excuse. 'Tis Robin Fitzooth, said old Montfichet then. I was told that you had been killed long since. Robin Fitzooth is truly dead, sir. Behold in his place Robin o' the Hood. I come to ask a service at your hands for the memory of this dead man, and in redemption of your promise given to him once in Nottingham. Ask it, friend. The squire's tones were kinder. Looking at him, Robin saw that he had aged. There were no longer signs of that fastidious attention to his apparel which had characterized Montfichet of Gamewell. There is, sir, a maid, who, losing her father on a journey to London, hath had great trouble put upon her by the sheriff. Monsieur would persecute her, in short, and she is flown from the city. Now, I would ask an asylum for her here. She shall be made welcome and given full freedom of Gamewell, answered Montfichet, rising.
Just followed.
I shall rejoice to see her here. In sooth, for my days lack company. Then will you bring her to me, Master Robin of the Hood, and pray what makes you wear so strange a name? Also, welcome in, Epic Story Beats. Thank you for the follow. He spoke quite in his old manner, and half smiled at them. He glanced toward Master Gilbert of Blois. Is this your little esquire, young Stuteley? Asked he, lifting his brows. Truly, he has grown out of all memory. Not exactly. Robin felt himself to be in an awkward fix. His eyes glanced from one to the other. Marian, at last, took pity on his distress. Good, my lord, said she, with that pretty shake of her dark curls. I am the maid for whom Master Robin pleads so earnestly. I am Marian Fitzwalter, out of her petticoats and into a boy's clothes. I had no other way of flying from Nottingham, so behold me for the nonce, as Gilbert of Blois. The squire listened, and slowly his face relaxed. Anything spirited or daring always appealed to him strongly. You are a pretty page, I swear, Master Gilbert. Sure, it will be hard for you to make fairer maid than man. Welcome either way to Gamewell. I'll keep you safe from Monsieur. I have no love for him in any case. You have fasted today, no doubt. I'll have supper brought us here. We have already supped, sir, said Robin, relieved to find this easy way out of a difficult business. He had the hope that Marian would in some way bring about a reconciliation between him and the squire. We will sup a second time, said Montfichet. Ho there, bring us a pasty and a flagon. Hurry, knaves, bring us the best of our larder. Come, Robin, sit here at my right hand, and you, Gilbert, by his side. And so already it has come to this, Robin. Will not the greenwoods seem dull tomorrow? Mayhap I might change them for a seat at your table on occasion, sir, said Robin, to see how badly I treat my guest. Is that it? Come, when you will, Robin of the Hood. Tell me now, why did you choose this name, and another was offered you? Master Gilbert here, sir, he is responsible for it, and honestly, I do like the name. 'Tis uncommon. May I pledge you, sir? Here's to our friendship. May we grow old in it and ripe in it. I have no wish, Robin, to grow either old or ripe, said Marian, settling herself. Let us eat first, and make our speeches afterward. Help me to the pasty before you, and do not chatter so much. Woman who knows her mind. Squire George nodded in approval. "Spoken like a man," cried he. "Robin is too full of words tonight. Ay, but I am right glad to see him here, for all that. Fill your glass, kinsman, and the ladies. Nay, look not so distressed at her. Up to the top, man, up to the top. This is no time for half measures." In the morning, when Robin came blithely from his bed, the first bed that he had known for many months, he found the squire waiting for him in the hall. His face was grave. "I must speed you, Robin," said he. "I have news that Monsieur is abroad and will attack your company at Barnesdale." "Oh, well, spam bot. Woo! Good job, Siri. Siri bot is on it." Robin had told him all, and the squire had neither approved nor disapproved. Working in his mind was jealous wonderment that Robin should prefer such a life to that which might have been his at Gamewell. The squire made no show of this, however. "I will guard Mistress Fitzwalter from all harm. Rely upon me, and go, since you must. Here is our Master Gilbert. Gilbert no more. I should scarcely have known her." Marian entered from the other end of the hall. The maids had found her a dress, grey blue as her eyes. She bloomed like an early rose on this sweet spring morning. "And you are going to leave me, Robin," she said mournfully. The squire had disappeared. Robin, approaching, took her hand. He looked up from it and saw the golden arrow gleaming in her hair, that arrow which had so strangely marked the beginning of his troubles. Marian smiled, and her eyes invited him. And to these two, and so these two kissed each other frankly, mouth to mouth. A little later, Robin was speeding through the forest. His feet were light, and he sang softly to himself as he trod the springy grass. Suddenly, a sad song broke upon his ear. 'Twas a doleful song, full of tears, and Robin, in consternation, stopped short. Along the woodland path there came towards him a minstrel carrying a harp and trailing a rope. "Marry, friend, but your harp is out of all harmony," began Robin. "I do not play upon it," retorted the minstrel. "You sing a sad song," said Robin, "and I, who am happy, am put out of countenance by it. Therefore sing it not until I am far from you." "My heart overflows with sorrow," said the minstrel, "and so I must sing of sadness and of death." "Tell me your sorrow, friend," Robin begged, "and walk with me back upon the road. Like as not I can help you." "I should not speak my grief to you," the minstrel told him, "for you are happy." "One who lives in the greenwood cannot be otherwise," observed Robin. "Come, walk with me and coil the rope." "I had brought it," said the minstrel, "so that I might hang myself to—" Ooh, wow. That got really dark really fast. Oof. "I had brought it," said the minstrel, "so that I might hang myself to some old oak, and thus fittingly end the wretched misfortune life of Allan a Dale." Robin perceived that there was a story to follow. "Walk with me, gossip, and ease your heart in confidence," he said cheerfully. "I can likely help you. Today is my lucky day." "Know then, happy stranger, that I have lost my dear, and through no fault of my own," said Allan a Dale, as they walked together. "A wealthy baron has taken my love from me, and will marry her this very day. And so I have come into these quiet woods that I may kill myself, for never can I live without my Fennel." "Is that her name? 'Tis very quaint." "'Tis a fitting name, gossip. Fennel means worthy of all praise, and she is the most worthy of all maids." Jesus, this melancholic minstrel is gonna be the death of me. Thank goodness this is a 18 plus stream. Jesus. Perchance you do not know many maids, friend," said Robin. "Tell me, is she dark-haired, and are her eyes sweet as violets?" "In sooth, her eyes are blue enough, gossip," said Alan, but her hair is like fine spun gold, and she has a little straight nose and such a tender smile. Mary, when I think upon her many perfections, my heart doth leap to sink again when I mind me that I have lost her. And why have you lost her, Allan a Dale? Look you, 'tis this way. The Normans overrun us, and are in such favour that none may say them nay. This baron coveted the land wherein my love dwells. So her brother, who was lord of it, was one day found still and stark, killed whilst hunting, folk say. Thus the maid became heir at law, and the baron wooed her, thrusting me aside. Nay, but surely, began Robin. Hear me out, gossip, Allan said. You think I am light overborne, no doubt, but never should this Norman dog have triumphed had it been man to man. But who can deal with a snake in the grass? The wretch has poisoned my fennel against me, and 'tis she who has cast me into despair, while she is to be wedded with mine enemy. Does she love you, Allan? Once she loved me right well. Here is the little ring which she gave me when we were betrothed. Enough, said Robin. This wedding shall not be. Can you keep your own counsel? Follow me then, and on your love for Fennel, see nothing of the way in which I lead you, Hassan. He brought the minstrel into Barnsdale Woods, and to their most secret haunt. Then he summoned the greenwood men, and told them first of the sheriff's plans, and then gave out the grievous story of Allan a Dale. Where is the marriage to be held? Asked Little John. In Plympton Church, sighed the minstrel. Then to Plympton we will go, by my beard, cried the giant, and Monsieur may meanwhile scour Barnsdale for us in vain. Thus virtue is plainly its own reward. Well planned, indeed, Little John. Fill quivers, friends, and let us go. This shall be a strange marriage day for your baron, Ellen. If the lady be not stubborn, you must move her if she be cross with you. We will do all other duties. They travelled through one of their many secret ways towards Plympton. The sun shone high in the heavens ere they had come within sight of the small square church. Without the building they espied a guard of 10 archers, liveried in scarlet and gold. Robin bade the rest to approach, and under cover of the hedgerows he then borrowed Allan's cloak and harp, and stepped out boldly towards the church. A few villagers were gathered about the archers, and Robin mingled with these, asking many quaint questions, and giving odd answers to any who asked in turn of him. Hearing the laughter and chattering, the bishop, who was to perform the marriage, came to the church door all in his fine robes, and looked severely forth. What is the meaning of this unseemliness? Asked he in well-known tones. Robin saw that here was my lord of Hereford again. He answered modestly, I am a harper, good my lord. Shall I not make a song to fit this happy day? Welcome, minstrel, if such you are, said the bishop. Music pleases me right well, and you shall sing to us. I must not tune my harp nor pluck the strings in melody until the bride and bridegroom have come, Robin answered wisely. Such a thing would bring ill fortune on us and on them. You will not have long to wait, cried the bishop, for here they come. Stand on one side, worthy people. He busied himself in welcome of the bridegroom, a grave old man, dressed up very fine. The bride was clothed in white samite, and her hair shone like the sun. Her pretty eyes were dark with weeping, but she walked with a proud air, as women will who feel that they are martyring themselves for their love's sake. She had but 2 maids with her, roguish girls both. One held up her mistress's gown from the ground. The other carried flowers in plenty. Now, by all the songs I have ever sung, surely never have marriage bells rung for so strange a pair, cried Robin boldly. He had stopped them as they were passing into the church. Lady, he asked, do you love this man? For if you do not, then you are on your way to commit a sacrilege. A sacrilege? Just sacrilege. To commit sacrilege. Stand aside, fool, cried the bridegroom wrathfully. Do you love this man? Persisted Robin. Speak now or never. I am a minstrel, and I know maids' hearts. Many songs have I made in their honor, and never have I found worse things in them than pride or vanity. I give my hand to him, minstrel, and that is enough, the girl answered at last. She made a movement towards the aisle. And Alan, whispered Robin, looking straight into her eyes. At this, she gave a little gasp of fear and love, then glanced irresolutely towards the shriveled Baron. I will not marry you, she cried suddenly. Robin laughed, and dropping the harp, clapped his horn to his lips. Even as the archer sprang upon him, the greenwood men appeared. Mercy me, called out the bishop, seeking to escape. Here are those rascal fellows who did maltreat me so in Sherwood. The archers were prisoners everywhere, and the Baron too. Ere my Lord Hereford had done exclaiming, Stuteley and Much pushed Allan a Dale forward. This is the man, good, my lord, to whom you shall marry the maid, cried Robin, flourishing his bow, if she is willing. Will you marry me, dear heart? Pleaded Allan a Dale. I'm your true love, and the stories they told to you were all false. Own to it, Baron, roared Little John, shaking up the unfortunate old man. Tell her that you did lie in your straggling beard when you said that Allan was untrue. I spoke falsely. I own it. Have done with me, villain. Spare him, Little John, for the nonce. Now, my lord, marry them for us, for I am ready to sing you my song. They must be called in church 3 times by their names, such is the law, the bishop protested. Robin impatiently plucked the bishop's loose gown off his back and threw it over Little John's shoulders. The big fellow thrust himself firmly into it and stood with arms akimbo. By the faith, O my body, cried Robin, this cloth makes you a man. Little John went to the church door, and all began to laugh consumedly at him. Even the maid Fennel forgot her vexations. Seeing that she smiled, Allan opened his arms to her, and she found her way into them. Little John called their names 7 times, in case 3 should not be enough. Then Robin turned to the bishop, and swore that he should marry these 2 forthwith. The gown was given back to him, and my Lord of Hereford commenced the service. He thought it more polite to obey, remembering his last experience with the madcap outlaw. Who gives this maid in marriage? Asked the bishop, in due season. I do, said Robin. I give her heartily to my good friend Allan a Dale, and he who takes her from him shall buy her dearly. So, just rolled up on some dude's wedding and was like, no, you're gonna marry the minstrel whom you love. That's wild. Such an odd, random story. But, let's see. We're kind of at a good point here. Big stretch. So we're on to chapter 21. With a bit of time before we have to run an ad. Yeah. Chapter 21. Dun dun dun. In Higora!
Hi Gara,
with
13
the
gifted 5 subscriptions to the community.
Goodness. You started a hype train all by yourself. Thank you. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. I really appreciate it, Higara. And also thank you for listening. You were lurking in the chat without saying a word, and boom, just gifted subs. Yeah, you have propped up this channel quite a bit with your gifted subs. Thank you. I genuinely appreciate it. Let's see here. Mr. Wild, enjoy the sub, enjoy the emotes. There's some cute ones there. So Aoife Wotatop, 004873, Amber Pines, and Inklia. Yeah. I move in mysterious ways to pay my library dues. You do. You do. Thank you. Let's see. So we are on to chapter 21, and as a friendly reminder, between chapters after this one, I will go on break, and then I can go use the restroom. And while that's doing its thing, I can run one ad, and then we'll be free of them, hopefully, for the rest of stream. Grab that. Oh!
Brem just subscribed.
Thanks, Brem! Thanks for the sub! Wow! That was unexpected. Thank you kindly. I hope you enjoy the new emotes. They're super cute. Most of which were done by Yuki, whom I highly recommend if you haven't, if you're looking for your own custom emotes. They do a really good job. I have a couple in there from some other folks and from some raffles that I've won, but most of my emotes were done by Yuki. Okay, and yes, chapter 21. They betook themselves to Barnsdale after the wedding, leaving my lord. Thank you for the biddies. Thanks, Brem. Brem MC. You too would like to pay your library dues. Thank you. Thank you very much. You contribute to all of the things that I do here and the collection of the books in the library. Thank you. His guard was variously, I'm just going to start the paragraph again. So, chapter 21. They betook themselves to Barnsdale after the wedding, leaving my lord of Hereford gownless and fuming in the organ loft of the little church at Plympton. His guard was variously disposed about the sacred edifice, 2 of the bowmen being locked up in the tiny crypt, 3 in the belfry, to ring us a wedding peal, as Robin said, and the others in the vestry, or under the choir seats in the chancel. The old baron had been forced to climb a high tree, and had been left in the branches of it, feebly railing at them. Then they all came back into Barnsdale, there to make a proper wedding feast, after which Alan carried off his bride and her maids to his own home in the north, promising stoutly to return to them in due season. The days came and went, and Monsieur began to hope fondly that the outlaws had gone out of Sherwood. On the 3rd morning after Alan's marriage, the Bishop of Hereford came bursting into Nottingham with the old baron and the humiliated guard. The sheriff's hopes were shattered under the furious indignation of the baron and my lord of Hereford. It appeared that they had been released from their various positions of confinement during the evening of the marriage day, and had forthwith hurried to the baron's castle. Thence they had set out for Alan's home, in the east of the county, nearer to Southwell, a pretty place. Arrived there, they had demanded reparation and the maid Fennel, and in order to be able to declare the marriage false, the bishop had sent in a petition to the Pope, whereto Mistress Fennel was led to place her hand in writing. Alan's answer was to tear the petition into little pieces and fling it at the feet of the messenger who had brought it, whereupon the bishop had withdrawn and the baron had commenced an attack upon the place. Oh, the hype train's over. Thank you so much, you guys. Bram, Higara, thank you both for the subs. Whereupon the bishop had withdrawn and the baron had commenced an attack upon the place. After an hour or so of vain storming, Alan, at the head of a small band of retainers, had issued forth and mightily discomfited the Baron and his men, beating them heartily out of the neighborhood of Southwell. These matters, instigated and brought about by one Master Robin of the Hood, cried aloud for summary vengeance. The sheriff doubled and trebled the reward offered for his head, mentioning him above all others who were known to aid and abet him. Little John ranked next in point of infamous merit in the sheriff's reckoning, for Monsieur remembered his golden plate. The people of Nottingham, hearing continually of this pother, fell chattering between themselves, and ere a week was out, Monsieur's reward of 100 golden pieces for the head of Robin Hood was the theme of conversation in the city. Hello! We've got Dan Silverknight and Alan and Bill the Duck. Hey, welcome in. I rated into you on Wednesday. Hi, Alan. For those of you not familiar, Alan, I just found he's another reading streamer. I think variety as well. Like I think he plays some video games as well, but Alan and Bill the Duck. Of course. Let's watch a quick video or a clip of so far just reading. That's fair. What do we got here?
What kind of cockamamie nonsense are you doing? You rapscallion? You monster? You creature of the night? What is this? What in the deep fried hot flaming hot
The deep fried flaming hot what now? Yes, so Alan is another reading streamer, and Bill the Duck is their compatriot. I'm not sure what I would say. And Bountiful Vermin, welcome in. Thank you, Raiders. My goodness. That is so wild. Let's give a shout out to Bountiful Vermin. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for the raid.
Oh my god!
Oh,
I literally
Valheim.
blocked him. I just fucked my ass.
Oh, I've gone lightheaded. I've gone lightheaded.
Wow.
Holy shit!
Interesting clip there. Also, great game, Valheim. I enjoy it a great deal. Welcome in, Raiders. Thank you for stopping in. That's awesome. If you're not familiar with me or what I do, hello, my name is Vexing Cat. You can call me Vex or Vexing. And I do primarily reading streams, classical literature, and some poetry. I occasionally play a variety of various video games, including Sea of Thieves, Valheim, Grounded. I also am on a bi-weekly D&D stream as well. But yeah, welcome in. Get get settled in, grab a snack, hydrate, caffeinate, do whatever you need to get comfortable. I am reading Robin Hood and His Adventures by Paul Creswick, and I am on to chapter 21. It's been pretty interesting reading this version of Robin of Locksley, or now Robin of the Hood, or Robin Hood. Has been pretty fascinating. Like, I didn't know the history of the character, and this has been a wild ride, talking about, you know, his parents and how he interacted with the Squire of Gamewell and the Prince John and the Sheriff of Nottingham, Master Monsieur. But it's been an interesting story so far. I'm going to read this chapter, then go on a short break, and when I come back, I'll probably read 2 or 3 more chapters. So, welcome in, and Tengu, hello. I love having readers. You guys get to see my content and it unwind. So depending on what you were doing, hopefully this this content is enjoyable for you. What were you playing before, or what were you doing before? You did Abiotic Factor? I don't think I've seen that. Is that a game? Ooh, it's kind of like grounded. Quick. Okay. Okay. I like the animation style. It's interesting. Wow. First person perspective. It looks like an alien world. Resource gathering. This looks like a cool game. Kind of like Pal World or Valheim, except a little bit more technologically advanced. That's cool. Awesome. I'll have to check that out sometime. Before I get any more like confused or rambling on, I digress. Let's go ahead and read the next chapter and then I can go on a short break. So, once again, thank you so much, raiders, and hopefully you enjoy the story. Chapter 21. They betook themselves to Barnesdale after the wedding, leaving my lord of Hereford gownless and fuming in the organ loft of the little church at Plympton. His guard was variously disposed about the sacred edifice, 2 of the bowmen being locked up in the tiny crypt, 3 in the belfry, to ring us a wedding peal, as Robin said, and the others in the vestry or under the choir seats in the chancel. The old baron had been forced to climb a high tree, and had been left in branches of it feebly railing at them. Then they all came back into Barnesdale, there to make a proper wedding feast, after which Alan carried off his bride and her maids to his own home in the north, promising stoutly to return to them in due season. The days came and went, and Monceux began to hope fondly that the outlaws had gone out of Sherwood. On the 3rd morning after Alan's marriage, the Bishop of Hereford came bursting into Nottingham with the old baron and the humiliated guard. The sheriff's hopes were shattered under the furious indignation of the baron and my lord of Hereford. It appeared that they had been released from their various positions of confinement during the evening of the marriage day, and had forthwith hurried to the baron's castle. Thence they had set out for Alan's home in the east of the county, near to Southwell, a pretty place. Arrived there, they had demanded reparation and the maid Fennel, and in order to be able to declare the marriage false, the bishop had sent in a petition to the Pope, whereto Mistress Fennel was led to place her hand in writing. Alan's answer was to tear the petition into little pieces and fling it at the feet of the messenger who had brought it. Whereupon the bishop had withdrawn, and the baron had commenced an attack upon the place. After an hour or so of vain storming, Alan, at the head of a small band of retainers, had issued forth and mightily discomfited the baron and his men, beating them heartily out of the neighborhood of Southwell. These matters, instigated and brought about by one Master Robin of the Hood, cried aloud for summary vengeance. The sheriff doubled and trebled the reward offered for his head, mentioning him above all others who were known to aid and abet him. Little John ranked next in point of infamous merit in the sheriff's reckoning, for Monceux remembered his golden plate. The people of Nottingham, hearing him continually of this pother, fell a-chattering between themselves, and ere a week was out, Monceux's reward of 100 golden pieces for the head of Robin Hood was the theme of conversation in the city. No one identified him with Robin of Locksley, that brave, misguided youth being so entirely dead to their minds, and he was variously named as Hood, Robin Hood, Captain Hood, and Master Robin. A travelling tinker came at length upon the talk of the town. He had been sitting on the bench without the sign of the 16 Does, dozing and drinking, and at last seeking to do both at once. Booze and so sleeping and drinking, that sounds dangerous, very dangerous. Mine host stood near by, discussing the eternal Robin. Folk do say that Master Monsieur has sent into Lincoln for more men-at-arms and horses, that when he has these to hand he will soon scourge Captain Hood from our forest. Of whom speak you? Asked the tinker, suddenly waking up. Of this Robin of the Greenwood, said the innkeeper, but you will never earn the sheriff's 100 pieces. Then the tinker arose upon his dignity and eyed the innkeeper reproachfully. And why will I not earn the 100 pieces, gossip? Said he with a deadly calm in his manner. Where our sheriff has failed, and a bishop also, it is not likely that a mere tinker will succeed. Mine host answered, Pray me for your ale, gossip, and go on your way. The tinker approached and laid a heavy hand upon the innkeeper's fat shoulder. Friend, he said impressively, I am one not noted either for dullness or lack of courage. I do perpend that to earn these pieces of which you speak, one must perform some worthy business. Tell it to me, and you and Nottingham shall see then what middle the tinker thinks on it. At this a great clacking began, so that Master Middle only came to the gist of it in an hour. He valiantly proclaimed his intention, so soon as he did understand, of taking Robin Hood single-handed. Why, send into Lincoln and the shires when Middle the tinker will do this business for you, gossips. I will go into your Sherwood this very day. Give me the warrant, and I shall read it to Robin to purpose, I promise you. They pushed him, laughing and jesting between themselves, towards Nottingham Castle, and there thrust him into the hall. Here is a champion come to take your pieces, Master Monsieur, someone called out. Here is Middle, the Pot Valiant? The Pot Valiant. Pot Valiant. That's interesting. Pot Valiant? I've never seen that before. Brave only as a result of being... Okay, it's a word. Adjective. Pot Valiant. Okay, Pot Valiant. The more you know. Pot Valiant. Let's see. First word of the day. Hour in. Not so bad. Many creaks and pots and cranks of my very old chair. All right. Pot Valiant. Adjective. Brave only as a result of being drunk. Here is a champion come to take your pieces, Master Monceux, someone called out. Here is Middle, the Pot Valiant, cried another. Master Middle asked for the warrant, and obtained it. Then he sallied forth, accompanied by the customers from the sign of the 16 Does, as far as the gates of the city. There he made them a long speech, and left them. They watched him making determinedly along the white road towards Barnesdale, then returned to their tankards and their talk. Master Middle reached Gamewell without mishap, and the brisk air having revived him much, he gradually came into a placid frame of mind. In this happy condition, he encountered presently a comely youth with a little beard and a friendly tongue. Give you good den, gossip, cried the youth. I hear there is sad news abroad. I fear all is not well with the world. Since I live in Banbury, good friend, the tinker replied, I cannot speak for the world, but Banbury is always willing to listen and learn. Hark ye then, this is the news I have heard, that in Nottingham town they have put 2 tinkers in stocks for drinking too much ale and beer. If that is all, said Middle contemptuously, your news is not worth a groat, while as for drinking good ale, 'tis not you who would willingly lose your part of it. By my faith, gossip, you are right, laughed the youth. But now give me your news, since mine is worth so little. You who go from town to town must come by many strange items. All that I have heard, the tinker said, thinking of the sheriff's pieces, is very good. I am in search of an outlaw whom men call Robin Hood. In my wallet I have a warrant to take him wherever I can, and if you can tell me where he is, I will make a man of you, friend. Let me see the warrant, said Robin, for 'twas he, and if I find it to be right, I will take you to him this very day. That I will not do, cried Middle, readily. I will trust no man with my warrant, and if you will not help me, gossip, why pass on, and good riddance to you. He began to stride along the road again, and until Robin had called him thrice, would not turn about. If you will come with me to a certain inn on Watling Street, good friend, called Robin encouragingly, I'll even show you Robin of the Hood. At this, Middle turned his head, and then came back to Robin. Lead the way, gossip, said he, at length. I'll walk behind you. I have my stick. Robin made no reply, but started at a good pace. He led the tinker through the forest by many devious ways until they had arrived at a little inn on Watling Street. It was styled the Falcon, and mine host came willingly to serve these guests. The tinker asked for ale, Robin for wine. They sat at talk for near an hour, Robin explaining much about this Robin of the Hood. The tinker drank his ale and listened, then pronounced his plan for taking the outlaw. This made a lengthy history, and was so dry withal that Master Middle must needs fill and empty his tankard many times. In the end he fell asleep. Robin deftly opened his pouch then, took out the warrant, read it, and put it in his own wallet. He called mine host, and telling him that the tinker would pay the reckoning so soon as he awoke, Robin left the Falcon and Master Middle together. How devious. Having leisure for the whimsy, Robin bethought him to stay a while and see what Middle might do, for in a way he had taken Robin's fancy. So Robin hid and waited events. Presently the tinker awoke and called for the landlord. Gossip, said he to mine host, I have a grave charge to lay upon you. In this house, whilst I did rest in the thought that you were an honest man and one loving the king, my pouch had been opened and many matters of importance taken from it. I had in it, item, a warrant granted under the hand and seal of my lord the Sheriff of Nottingham, authorizing the arrest of a notorious rascal, one Robin Hood, Barnsdale. Item, a crust of bread. Item, 6 single keys, useful withal. Item, 12 silver pennies, the which I have earned this week in fair labor. I wondered to hear you speak so of Robin Hood, friend, answered the landlord. Was he not with you just now, and did he not clink glasses with you in all amity? Was Robin of the Hood that, little bag of bones? Cried Middle in great vexation. God a mercy, but now I see it all. He has taken my warrant and my pennies. Let me go after him, gossip. Be sure that I will bring him back right soon. There is, first, the reckoning to be paid, good friend, said the landlord. Why, I would pay you with all pleasure had I the means, the tinker replied. At this moment I have but my stick and my bag of tools. I will leave them with you as hostages. Give me your leathern coat as well, said mine host, sharply. The hammer and tools are as naught to me. It would seem that I am fallen from one thief to another, snapped Middle. If you will walk with me to the green, I'll give you such a crack as shall drive some honesty into your thick skull. You are wasting your breath and my leisure, the other retorted contemptuously. Give you gone after your quarry. Middle thought this to be good advice, and he strode forth from the Falcon in a black mood. Ere he had gone half a mile upon the road, he perceived Robin demurely walking under the trees, a little in front of him. Ho there, you villain! Shouted Middle. Stay your steps. I am most desperately in need of you this day. Robin turned about with a surprised face. Well met again, tinker, cried he. Have you found Robin Hood? Marry that I have, roared Middle, plunging at him. Robin had his sword at his side, and tried to draw it, but the tinker was too speedy for him. Middle laid on his blows with so much vigor that for a while he had Robin at his mercy. The greenwood rang with the noise of the fight, for now Robin had plucked out his sword. 'Twas steel against oak, brute force matched against skill. Indignation gave Middle the advantage, and he fought with such fury that Robin's sides began to ache. Hold your hand, Tinker, called Robin at last. I cry a boon of you. I would rather hang you upon this tree ere granting it to you, said Middle, commencing afresh. But Robin had had time to blow his horn in urgent summons of Stuteley and Little John. In a brief space they appeared, with much of the greenwood men at their heels, and Master Middle was seized and disarmed rudely enough. This rascal Tinker has made my bones quite sore, said Robin ruefully. Is that your trouble? Said Little John. Let me discover now if I may not do the like for him. Not so, Little John, Robin said then. This was my own quarrel, and I deserved all that this rogue had bestowed on me. He had a warrant for my arrest, which I have stolen from him. With 12 silver pennies, a crust of bread, and 6 little keys, remarked Middle with emphasis. Here are the keys and the crust, gossip, answered Robin smilingly, and here the pennies turned by me into gold. Here also, if you will, is my hand. I take it heartily with the pence, cried Middle, seizing the slim, frank hand of the outlaw. By my leathern coat, by my pots and pans, I swear I like you, friend Hood, and will serve you and your men honestly. Do you want to tinker? Nay, but I swear you do. I'll swear you do. Who else can mend and grind your swords and patch your pannikins? Will you take me, little man, who can fight so well, and who knows how to play a bold game? Marry, I will take you, tinker, if the rest be willing, and you will swear the oath. But it rests not with me, for this is a band of freemen without a leader. Not so, Robin, cried Little John, glancing up from close perusal of the sheriff's warrant. We have a leader, and you are the man. Master Monceux of Nottingham has ordained it. Herein you are described as Robin of the Hood, leader and captain of the band of evil robbers infesting Barnesdale and our forest of Sherwood. The Bishop of Hereford has put his blessing on the sheriff's choice by excommunicating you. Shall we not accept Monceux's word for it, comrades all? He added, turning round. He has named a leader for us whom we can trust. It was carried with acclamation, and Robin found himself leader of the Greenwood men willy-nilly, for good and all. Warrenton was hugely delighted, and the tinker seemed pleased that he had helped in bringing about so excellent an arrangement. Master Middle swore the oath of allegiance in good set terms, and they all repaired to Barnesdale to call a full council and to ratify their choice of captain. Oh, it's so absurd. My goodness. Okay. Before we go to chapter 22, I'm going to go on a quick ad break. And when I come back, we will go ahead and when I come back, we'll go ahead and start. I think I'll probably do 2 or 3 more chapters today until about 8 p.m. EDT. So, math. Wait, that's not right. Usually end somewhere around 5, so it'll be 9 p.m. EDT. All right. Hang tight, everyone. I will be right back. Okay, and we are back. All right, all right. Welcome in, welcome in. If anyone wasn't here before I went on break, welcome in. I am reading Robin Hood and His Adventures by Paul Creswick. We are returning to chapter 22, and hopefully everyone hydrated and grabbed a snack and curled up under a blanket if you're falling asleep. Chapter 22. Within the next few days came Allan a Dale into Barnesdale with his lady and her 2 maids. Allan had the story to tell of the bishop's encounter with him and the baron's onslaught upon his house in Southwell. Allan explained that although he had triumphed over his enemies for the present, tidings had been brought to him that the bishop was plotting a fresh mischief against them at Southwell, and had already excommunicated both Allan a Dale and his pretty wife. "In that case you may take up your life with us," said Robin. "The greenwood is the abode of liberty and justice. 'Tis our commonwealth, in truth, and happy enough place to live in, even in winter time. We will find you a cave." "There's Fennel," explained Allan dubiously. "I do not think that she will like to live in a cave." "You don't know. Ask her." This presented a difficulty. So Allan went over to where Fennel stood waiting with her maids, and explained things to her. "So long as I am with you, dear heart," answered Fennel, laughing, "I do not care if I live under a tree or in a house. Do that which you think best for us." Therefore they came into the greenwood and were found a cave opening from one of the larger passages, a dry and excellent home in these long summer months. In the meantime, little Midge had fallen sick, and Much the miller wept loudly over him as he lay, pale and languid, on a rude couch of dry leaves. All the company sorrowed over this small Lincoln fellow, for he had been a merry companion, and Robin himself sought to bring him back to health with such simple remedies as he knew. "Captain," said Much, with a woe-begone countenance, "'tis all useless, our doctoring. I am about to lose the best friend that I have ever known. Can you get a priest to pray beside Midge's bed?" "I did know of a right worthy priest," Robin answered sorrowfully, "but he is gone from these parts. He would have been just the one to cheer us all." "I have heard tell of a jovial fellow who is but lately come to our parish," said Middle the tinker. "You must know, comrades, that I was born near to Fountain's Abbey in York, and that once a year at least I visit my old mother there. Now, I promise you that never such a frolicsome priest did you know as this one, who has come to our priory. He can bend a bow with any man and sing you a good song." "I would dearly love such a man to minister to me," pleaded poor Midge. "I believe on my soul that he could cast out the fever from my bones. Bring him to me, Much, as you love me." This settled matters forthwith. "I will go to the world's end for you, if there be need," sobbed the honest miller. "Give me leave, captain, to go in search of this worthy friar." "I will go with you, Much, and Little John shall come also," began Robin, but now a fresh difficulty arose. All of them wished to go wherever Robin went. He was their captain, they said, and so must be protected. In the end it was arranged that Stutely should remain with 20 of men in Barnesdale to guard their caves and keep the sheriff at bay if occasion arose. In truth, however, Master Monceux had full hands just now with affairs of state, although the greenwood men did not know of this. The king was grievously ill, and Monceux had gone to London with the Bishop of Hereford and many of the neighbouring barons under the royal command. Robin asked Mistress Fennel to give the sick man such nursing as she would to Allan himself, and she sweetly promised that Midge should suffer in no way by his captain's absence. Then Robin, with the rest of the band, 15 in all, set off for York. It so happened that Master Simeon Carfax was departing from the old town at nigh the same moment, with his face set nodding homewards. Warrenton, Little John, Much the Miller, and Master Middle were of Robin's company. Also, there was John Barry, the forester, and the one called Hal, who had been so much at the right hand of poor Will o' the Green in other days. Oh, hey, Wild. Hey, Vexing. I hope you're having a good stream so far. Yeah, absolutely. Doing a bit of reading. It's been really nice. I've really enjoyed this story. This version of Robin Hood has been a lot more in depth than what I remember reading as a child. Oh, thanks. Thanks,
Wildosis
Wild.
just
Thanks for the
subscribed
sub.
with Prime.
That's amazing. 4 months. Oh my goodness. Has it really been that long already? That's wild. I guess I probably rated myself upon reflection. It looks like Panda's still streaming too. Well, I guess I won't be rating into you, Wild. For those of you that have not seen Wild's content, I highly recommend them and the Underrealm. Let's see what kind of clip the shout out gives me this time, Wild. Sometimes it's new, sometimes it's old, and I can never tell what we're going to get. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, let's recap.
Yes, yes.
Ooh.
Yes,
Okay
boss.
then.
No, we both did it at the
Hey.
same time, then. Yes, boss.
So,
God, that was a
Cobbly's
tough one.
Cockspire.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Tiny, you go.
Well, he
So that was quite the lineup, actually. That was a good number of the folks from the Underrealm. That was Deuce Brickinson, Tiny Draculina, Eloria, that was Starry MC, Red Lethal Panda, and Wildosis. So that was the most of the folks from Underrealm. That was a good clip. So for representing Underrealm, that happened to be just the right one. But yeah, so Wild does a variety of various games, mostly horror based. They're going to have a debut here coming in the fall. I'm really looking forward to it. Their new model looks terrifying, and I mean that in the best possible way. It'll be it's going to be lit. So, if you haven't checked them out before, dear listeners, my Elite Bro files, please do so. They're really awesome, and I love their content. Admittedly, it is a little bit earlier in the day than when I'm reading, but it is really nice to catch them during the day. I love the various games that they play, and I love their D&D and their variety streams. Their collabs are fun. Yeah. Wildo says, I'm so excited for the re-debut, but even though I have 2 months left, I'm scrambling to get things done. Oh no, my dear friend. I am so sorry. I hope things get dialed in for you. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got my affiliate anniversary is in 4 months, and I don't know anything about it as a full independent. So, of course, always kind words for your content, the Underrealm's content. I hype you guys up, and I shill you like a crier on the street with a newspaper. Check out your Underrealm here. Check them out. So that clip wound up being really great because that showed a lot of the creators that are involved with that project. It's great. They have a whole Discord. They have stream updates and fan art and gaming. They get together and play Valorant or Apex, or they do different movie nights and anime nights. It's a whole community. So if you're looking for some new friends, they're a good bunch of folks. Let's see. We were on this page here, 235. That chapter. That paragraph there. This little company traveled speedily, and within 3 days they had brought themselves over the borders into the county of York. Another 2 days brought them within a league of Fountains Abbey or Dale, as some folk call it. As they neared the abbey, Robin walked on in front of the rest, and held his bow free in his hand. Presently he came to a stream and heard sounds of jovial song floating towards him. He hid under a bush and watched. Alertly, at length approaching the far bank, Robin espied a knight clad in chain armor and very merry. He sang in a lusty voice a hearty woodland song. "Now by my bones," thought Robin, puzzled, "but I have heard this song before." He peeped forth again and saw that the knight filled up the spaces of his song with bites from a great pasty which he held in his hand. His face was turned from Robin. Robin called out suddenly upon him, fitting an arrow to his bow as he did so. "I pray you, Sir Knight, to carry me across the stream," said Robin, covering the stranger with his weapon. "Put down your bow, Forester," shouted the knight, "and I will safely carry you across the brook. 'Tis our duty in life to help each other, and I do see that you are a man worthy of some attention." His voice troubled Robin as his song had done, but whilst he was searching his memory to fit a name to this courteous knight, the latter had waded across to him. "Jump upon my back, Forester, and I'll bring you to shore." He spoke through the bars of his closed visor. Robin had cast down his bow, and now, without thinking, jumped upon the knight's shoulders. The knight carried him safely over the brook. "Now, gossip, you shall carry me over this stream," said the knight serenely. "One good turn deserves another, as you know." "Nay, but I shall wet my feet," Robin commenced. "No more than I have wetted mine," retorted the other. "Besides, yonder is your bow, and small use are your arrows without it." Robin perceived then that he had been too hasty. He considered for a moment. "Leave your sword behind as I do my bow, Sir Knight," he said presently, "and I will carry you across the river." The knight laughed and agreed, and Robin took him upon his back. It was all that Robin could do to bring himself and his load to the bank, but at last he managed it. He set the knight down, then seized his bow. "Now, friend, yonder is your sword. I'll even crave that you shall carry me on your shoulders once more." The knight eyed Robin solemnly. "'Tis written in the Scriptures, Forester, that we should not be weary in well-doing," he observed. "So for this reason I will do your behest. Get upon my back once more." This time Robin carried his bow and smiled within himself. He found, however, that the knight was holding him very lightly. Just as he had opened his mouth in expostulation, the knight suddenly released his hold of Robin's legs and shook him into the running water. Then, laughing heartily, he regained the other bank and his broadsword. Robin, with wet skin and spoiled bow, struggled back to the bank wherefrom he had first started out. He began to revile the knight in set terms, and challenged him to fight. "'Tis only fair, Forester, that we should go halfway to each other," answered the knight unconcernedly. "If so be we are able to fight, I will come to the middle of the stream, and if I do not find you there, I shall know you to be afraid." Robin waded out to him with drawn sword, and there in the center of the stream they fought together valiantly for near a quarter of an hour. "I crave boon of you, Sir Knight," cried Robin, then feeling himself in danger of being drowned. "'Tis yours, Forester," sputtered the knight, still holding fast to his manner of courtesy. Forthwith Robin found his horn and blew it somehow, all wet as it was. "I too claim a boon," cried the knight. "'Tis yours," answered Robin, hearing joyfully the approach of his men. The knight produced a whistle and caused a shrill note to issue forth from it. Even as Warrenton and the rest came leaping to Robin's rescue on one hand, 25 great dogs sprang out of the bushes on the opposite bank. Warrenton and his fellows immediately sped a volley of arrows at the yelping beasts. But jumping and leaping, they caught the arrows in their mouths even as they flew. "I never have seen the like of this in my days," cried Little John, amazed. "'Tis rank sorcery and witchcraft." "Take off your dogs, friar," cried Middle, who was the least surprised of them all, "else ill will befall both them and you." He calls you friar, said Robin, astounded. Are you not a knight, in sooth? I am but a poor anchorite, a curtal friar, replied the other, pushing out of his side of the river. By name Friar Tuck of Fountain's Dale. Are these your men, Forester? This is Robin Hood, come in all amity and peace from Nottingham to bring you to a sick bedside, the tinker told him. 'Tis a sorry welcome that you accord to him. I am Robin Fitzooth, said Robin, having in his turn regained the river bank. And surely your name is not Tuck, as you say. The knight then lifted his visor, and Robin gave a cry of joy. It was the merry face of the clerk of Copmanhurst that beamed upon him from under the mailed cap. God save you, dear friend, why did you not say 'twas you? To tell truth, Robin, answered the clerk comically, you scarce gave me pause to eat my pie, let alone announce myself. Do I see Master Hall and my good friend Warrenton? Wait until I have chained my dogs, and I will give you all such welcome as this place does know. What a twist! Also, hi, Starfina, welcome in. They stayed with the worthy friar of Fountain's-Dale long enough for them to all be refreshed and rested, then started upon the return journey into Barnesdale with good speed. Friar Tuck, for so we must know him now, said he would go with them gladly, and bring his dogs also, for a year had been sufficient for his liking of Fountain's Abbey. The place was too quiet and deadly, and although he had succeeded to these dumb and faithful friends, he had employed much time in the training of them. Robin bethought him of poor Midge, waiting patiently their return, and so allowed no pause. They came back to Barnesdale within 3 days, having encountered and levied toll upon some rich merchants, penitents bound with presents for the Priory of York. Midge was found to be vastly recovered from his sickness, thanks to the nursing of Mistress Fennel and her maids. He welcomed the friar in his own droll way, begging to be forgiven by Master Tuck for not giving him reason to perform prayers for an outlaw's soul, and offering to be shrived, notwithstanding, if the priest felt aggrieved. Oh, that's silly. Little John, remembering his own words of many days afore, said, "'Tis a pity indeed that the good friar should have made this grievous long journey all for naught. By my faith, but here is a notion for the use of him and for yourself, Robin. Your name is not your own until Mother Church has put it properly upon you. So therefore, let us have a christening, since by good fortune we may not have a burying. I'm glad. Oh dear. I am the man to fix your new name upon you right bravely, cried Tuck, whistling to his dogs. Come, we will have such a christening as these woods have never dreamed of. Get me a basin of water and a book. Nay, said Robin, laughing, I think that you baptized me heartily enough in the river by Fountain's Dale. 'Twill be fitting, to my mind, if now we have the feast which follows upon all christenings. Bring out of our best, comrades, and let good cheer and the right wine fill our bodies. Afterward we can hold carnival, and the friar shall show how he can use the bow. Ay, merry friend, laughed the fat clerk, and I have learned other things in this year besides that. You are wondering to see me so changed, doubtless. But I must tell you that the life at Fountain's Dale has not been an easy one. I have had to hold mine own against the earls and squires of the borders, who have sought to rob me often enough, thinking that every son of Mother Church must needs be wealthy. So I have learned to use the broadsword and quarterstaff as well as the bow. Father, exclaimed Hal, you knew how to play all these very prettily when you were clerk of Copmanhurst. Then you chose to have folks believe that naught but holiness was in you. A man should not boast of all there is in him, answered the friar, But now, since I am found out, you know me for what I am. A paladin? I don't know. I am well content with you anyway, Robin told him. The worthy friar would not stay altogether with them in Barnesdale. He left his dogs there, save 3, and returned to Copmanhurst. Whoop. When the little hermitage knew him again as master, each day he would come into Barnesdale, howbeit to give news to Robin and hear the items that the greenwood men had for him. 'Twas from Friar Tuck that the outlaws learned much as to travellers through Sherwood, ere inquiring of them whether they were rich, whether worthy, or whether they were poor and deserving of help rather than taxing. Hear, hear. Let's see. We're on to chapter 23. Grab this real quick for my notes. Yeah, previously we read chapters 12 through 18. This is 19 through okay. I would like to read probably this chapter and one more, and then we'll see how far that gets us. So, as a friendly reminder between chapters, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever it is that you need to relax and enjoy the story. And currently we are reading Robin Hood and His Adventures by Paul Creswick. Crawl. Oh no, that would be Cull, right? What is his name? I don't know. There's so much fantasy lore in my brain, but I do remember it was Kevin Sorbo. It'll come back to me. Chapter 23. Master Carfax had by this time arrived in Nottingham, all eager to marry his cold bride, the Mademoiselle Marie. He found, however, that this was a happiness not yet to be, for matters were in grievous state in the sheriff's household. My lord of Hereford was very wrath with them all, and had sent Monsieur back to his native city with much to think upon. The bishop had taken the opportunity of laying formal complaint at court before the king, and his majesty had told Master Monsieur that when he went back to Nottingham it must be to keep the royal forest free of all evildoers. Otherwise a new sheriff would be found for Nottingham, and that right soon. Henry, the king, was near to his own end, and had become very irritable in consequence of his illness. His sons tried his scanty patience sorely with their waywardness and their ingratitude, so Monsieur had none too pleasant a reception at court, and returned therefrom with a heavy heart. Simeon Carfax was therefore dispatched into Sherwood to find the tinker, so that Middle might be whipped and put into the stocks for having failed. Also, Carfax was to secure Robin and the ringleaders at all hazard. To this end, Master Simeon was given command of the sheriff's own men-at-arms and a great body of citizens from the town wards, each man having the promise of a large reward and freedom thenceforth from all taxes. The news soon came to Robin, and he and his men retired at once into the innermost parts of Barnesdale, and secured their caves by covering the mouths of them with barricades artfully concealed behind green boughs and the like. So Carfax and his fellows searched without avail for near 3 weeks, only occasionally having evidence of the greenwood men by finding the feet and antlers of the king's deer lying here and there in the forest. The sheriff's men laid many traps for Robin, but all in vain. Stuteley, being of venturesome mind, must needs attempt all manner of tricks upon this motley company of soldiers. He would dig a pit with Little John and Much and hide it up with branches and earth, so that Master Carfax might stray into it and haply break his neck. Oh, man. Oh, man. At last, Carfax bethought him of a good plot. He had nigh fallen into one of Will Stutely's pits, but suddenly stayed his men from demolishing it. He planned instead to pretend to be trapped in the pit that very night, and having hidden his fellows all round about, he walked out boldly at dusk with but 3 of them, and fell a-talking loudly of his schemes for capturing Robin Hood. He walked carelessly up to the hidden pit, and with great outcry fell into it, the others with him running off then, as if in deadly alarm. Then Master Carfax began a loud lament, and made such a noise that Stutely must hear it. Young Will came bounding joyfully to the pit's edge, and spying Carfax therein, fell into an ecstasy of delight. He railed at Simeon very pleasantly, and made merry at the other's supposed mishap. But presently Carfax blew his horn, and shortly Stutely found the position reversed. After a desperate struggle, he was overpowered and carried off, although not without being seen by another Robin's men. This man brought Robin the bad news within an hour of Will Stutely's capture. The greenwood men flung prudence to the winds and sallied forth. They pursued and came up with the rear guard of the enemy, and a terrible battle was fought. 13 of Robin's brave fellows were wounded, 5 of them so grievously as to die soon afterward of their wounds, and as many of the Nottingham soldiery also were slain. Carfax returned to Nottingham, however, this time in some triumph. His men had beaten back the outlaws, and he had secured the lieutenant of the band, a desperate villain next to Robin Hood himself in deeds of violence and disorder. So all agreed, and by dint and hard swearing soon wove a noose to fit Will Stutely's thin neck. Monceux, in grave satisfaction, ordered that their prisoners should be hanged and quartered within a week in the streets of Nottingham as a warning and example to all wrongdoers. The sheriff gave a feast to all the soldiery and doubled the reward upon Robin's head. Until he was caught, Monceux could but remain uneasy, for Henry of England was a man of his word. Robin was sorely grieved at the loss of Stutely, and swore that he would save his little squire or die. He went therefore to Gamewell to discover from Marian precisely how they had arranged for the hanging of Stutely, for she was able to go into Nottingham in her page's dress. Marian had learned it all. First, you will be tortured to tell the secret of your hiding place, dear heart, she told Robin in bated breath. Then he will suffer the full penalty and will be hanged from the gallows with 3 other poor wretches. Last of all, he is to be quartered, and his body flung to the people. Ew? Oh, man. Welcome in, Almontis. I hope you had a good stream. They are the 3 sons of a poor widow who lives in the forest. They found the body of one of the deer, and being very hungry, were carrying it from the forest to their little home. Someone, passing by, accused them of having first killed it, and this quarrel came to the sheriff's ears. Master Carfax then affected to recognize them as being 3 greenwood men, and they have been tried summarily and found guilty, will be hanged together with Will. Also, welcome in, Mr. Space. I swear that this shall not be, cried Robin in heat, since no doubt I am to blame for leaving the slain deer in their way. It was, I believe, the very stag that I did kill, said Marian in a troubled voice. They have been in prison for near a month, and the beast was found without part of the woods, said Marian. Shall I not go and give myself up in their place? Since I have had this dreadful, guilty thought in my mind, I have known no moment's peace. But coward-like, do not dare to be honest with myself. Be of good courage, dear maid, said Robin. We have killed many of the king's deer since the day I first did meet with Master Gilbert of Blois. For we are hungry every day, prithee, and the beasts are many. Also in this season they are very wild and ferocious. 'Tis like this one was killed in battle, royal between itself and another stag. But to make sure, we will rescue the widow's 3 sons with my Stutely from the sheriff's foul clutches. Go not into danger, dear heart, for my sake, Marian pleaded, and she held him close to her as though she never would let him depart again. Robin went back to his men, and they made their plans. Little John was given the second place of command, and it was agreed that upon the morning on which Stutely and the others were to be hanged, the Greenwood men should risk all by marching into Nottingham to the rescue. The dawn of this eventful morning broke bright and sunny. Robin was clothed in a gay scarlet dress, and his men wore their mantles of Lincoln green cloth. They were armed with broadswords, and each carried a full quiver of new arrows fashioned for them during the past winter by the cunning hands of Warrenton. They marched boldly towards Nottingham, leaving Allan a Dale with his little dame and 6 of the outlaws to keep house for them, as it were. When they were within a mile of Nottingham. Thank you for the head pats. When they were within a mile of Nottingham gates, Robin called a halt and said, I hold it good, comrades, that we stay here in hiding and send forth someone to hear the news. There comes upon the road a palmer. See you him near by the gates? Bonk? Why bonk? No bonk for you. No bonk. I good bean. There comes upon the road a palmer. See you him near by the gate? Who will go forth and engage him in talk? I will, said Midge at once, for I am used to deal with holy men. So Midge went out from them, whilst they all hid themselves and waited. When he was close to the...
Drink water. Become moist.
the pre-water bonk. Okay, fair enough. I will hydrate. I also just found out, I thought this was only like a 32-ounce container for my water. Apparently, it's 45 ounces. This is a 45-ounce giant clear water bottle. And it feels like half a gallon because it is. It's big. It's a big water bottle. Worth it though. I like it because it's got a huge opening on the top of it. So if I want to put slices of mango or lime or whatever, grapefruit, whatever I want, I can put in there. I had mango in there the other day. It was really good. So Midge went out from them, whilst they all hid themselves and waited. When he was close to the palmer, Midge said amiably, I pray you, old palmer, tell me if you know where and when these robbers are to die. Doubtless you have passed the very spot. That have I indeed, answered the palmer sadly, and 'tis a sorry sight to see. By the sheriff's castle, out upon the roadway, they have built an angled gallows tree to bear the 4 of them at once. They are to die at noon, after the torturing is done. I could not bear the sight, and so have turned my back upon it. The palmer spoke in a muffled voice, and as his hood had been pulled well over his head, Midge could not see what manner of man he might exactly be. He carried his long stick with his little cross at the top, and had sandaled feet like any monk. Midge noticed idly how small his feet were for a man of his size, but gave no second thought to the matter. Who will shrive? Who will shrive these poor fellows, then, if you have turned your back upon them? Asked Midge reproachfully. This seemed to present itself as a new idea to the palmer. Do you think, friend, he inquired in a troubled way, that I should undertake the office? By St. Peter and St. Mary, I do indeed, cried Midge roundly. Would you leave them to the empty prayers which the sheriff's chaplain will pour coldly over them? Nay, in sooth, if your heart be turned to sympathy, surely you are the man to administer the last consolation to these poor fellows. If it might be permitted, I would dearly love to shrive them, said the palmer, still hesitating. But I am only a poor palmer. Keep close to me, Midge told him valiantly, and you shall shrive these good fellows as it become necessary. That I promise you. He returned to Robin and told him that the execution had been fixed to take place outside of Nottingham Castle at noon. We must hasten then, said Robin. Go you first, Little John, and we will tread close upon your heels. Little John swam the moat and sprang upon the warder of the gates sprang upon the warder of the city gates suddenly, whilst he was craning his neck to get a view of the sheriff's procession of death. The big outlaw seized his victim from behind and clapped his great hand over his mouth. Very soon the warder was prisoner in the round tower by the gate, and Little John had slipped himself into his uniform. Little John then lowered the bridge quietly, and passed the rest of them into Nottingham. Midge and the palmer came last of all. Now spread yourselves about into groups of 2s and 3s, said Robin, and have your swords ready when you hear my horn. Little John, prithee, draw the bridge again, so that none may suspect us, but leave the winch loose, for we may have to use it hastily. Go you first, and heaven speed thee. Will Stuteley at length came out of the castle, surrounded by the sheriff's guards, and behind him walked dejectedly the widow's 3 sons. Poor Will looked ghastly pale, and marks of the torturing showed upon his skin. His face was drawn and lined with anguish. Monsieur was there, dressed out in his best, and was blowing out his fat cheeks in vast self-importance. Beside the sheriff was Master Carfax, lean-faced as ever. They were mounted on white horses, and behind them were 20 of archers and pikemen. Stuteley, seeing that no help appeared at hand, asked in a weak voice that he might have words with the sheriff. Monsieur went up to him and bade him speak out. Stuteley said in a sad tone, Sheriff, seeing that I must die today, grant me this one boon, that I may not be hanged upon a gallows tree, but that I die with my sword in my hand, fighting you and all your men to the last. The sheriff laughed coarsely. Not so, my man, you shall die instead a shameful death, and after you your master Robin Hood, that false butcher, so soon as I have him fast. That you will never do, answered Stuteley with prophecy in his weak voice. But unbind my hands, Sheriff, for your soul's sake, and let me meet my end valiantly. To the gallows with him, roared Monsieur, giving the sign to the executioner, and Stuteley was hustled into the rude cart which was to bear him under the gallows until his neck had been leashed. Then it would be drawn roughly away, and the unhappy man would swing out over the tail of it until into another world. This is dark. Very dark. 2 fellows had great knives with them ready to cut him down and quarter his body whilst life was in it, as the cruel sentence had ordained. Let me at the least shrive this man's soul ere it be hurled into eternity, said the palmer, stepping forward. Monsieur's face grew black with rage, and yet he scarcely liked to refuse, for fear it would injure him too much in the eyes of the people. Perform the duty quickly then, Sir Priest, he snarled, and then wrote back to Carfax. Watch the palmer narrowly, he told him, and do you secure him afterwards. Methinks he is some ally of these rascal outlaws. And, in any case, we shall do no harm in questioning him. The palmer had hardly begun to string his beads when Little John commenced to elbow a path for himself through the crowd. He roughly thrust the soldiers aside as if they had been so many children, and came up to the edge of the cart. I pray you, Will, take leave of your true friend here before you die, cried Little John. The palmer had fallen back at his approach, and stood in some hesitancy. In a moment Monsieur saw what happened. Seize that man, he shouted to his pikemen. He is that villain who did rob us of our gold plate, who nearly slew Roger, our cook. He is of the band. Seize him, and he too shall hang. Not so fast, gossip, Little John answered with an ugly look. I must needs borrow my friend of you for a while. He had cut Stuteley's bands with 2 quick strokes of his dagger, and having wrenched a pike from out of one of the soldier's hands, flung it to little Will. Now, by my freedom, here's your prayer answered, comrade, cried Little John. I have found you a weapon. Do your best with it. The soldiers had recovered from their temporary surprise and flung themselves upon the prisoner and his would-be rescuer. Robin, from the back of the sheriff's bowman, sounded his horn, and instantly all became confusion and riot. In the melee the palmer sought to slip away unnoticed, but was detected by the keen eyes of Carfax. Master Simeon rode round with 6 of his fellows, and caused them to seize the holy man and bind him fast with leathern thongs. But this small success was more than outweighed by the reverse suffered by Monsieur and his men. Taken in assault at the rear, they had no chance with the Greenwood men. Robin himself had released the widow's 3 sons, and they had not been slow in arming themselves, some of those in the crowd having secret sympathy with the outlaws and hating the sheriff heartily for many small injustices, also flung themselves into the fray. The Greenwood men cleared the green square before the sheriff's home by repeated rushes and desperate chargings. Broken heads and cut knees there were in plenty, and lucky the man who escaped with so little as these. Carfax won a place of safety for Master Monsieur, and fell back slowly with him the unwilling palmer, until shelter of the castle gates had been attained. Then the soldiers and pikemen grew very valiant, and shot out clouds of arrows through the loopholes in the castle towers upon townsmen and rioters alike. 60 of men were killed ere this day was ended, amongst them being that very apprentice who had wrestled on the day of Nottingham Fair with little Stuteley, the tumbler for squire of the hall's purse. Robin had an arrow through his hand, and nigh broke the shaft in pulling it out. The Greenwood men, well satisfied with the day's work, commenced an orderly retreat. Little John lowered the bridge for them when they reached the city gates, and all fell back into Sherwood in good style. Stuteley had been rescued, and walked joyfully by the side of his master. Next to him was Little John, and near him the widow's 3 sons. They had already asked for and obtained permission to take up a free life in the woods of Sherwood. 2 of the band had been killed by the murderous arrows of the sheriff's fellows, and most of the outlaws bore wounds of some sort. Yet they were not cast down. Sorrow sat upon them for the loss of those 2 brave hearts, but for their own hurts they cared not. The bodies of their comrades were being carried with them into the free and happy woods, and there should find rest. Tell me, Midge, said Robin presently, and looking round for him, what did become of the palmer who was so wishing to be of service to our Stuteley? He seemed a likeable old man, and I would not that he should seem ungrateful. I much fear me that Monceau's fellows did capture him, the same of who bore off thee, Will, said Midge, but they will scarcely do him hurt, being a holy man. I have no trust in either of them, Robin answered, vexed. And I am grievously angry with you, Midge, for keeping the news to yourself. The palmer must be recovered from Monsieur, and at once. I will bethink me upon some plan to this end. They walked on in silence. After a while, I never thought, master, said Stuteley brokenly, that I should see these woods again, nor meet Little John either in quarrel or in friendship, nor see any of your dear faces again. By my crown, which is the hardest part of me, Little John cried, I swear that in the future you shall meet me how you will, gossip. Here's my hand on it. Thus began the great friendship between these two, which was to last them all their days. Robin was glad enough of it, but the doubtful fate of the palmer still troubled him sorely. If he had known that the bitter truth which he was to learn very shortly, if he had known then that bitter truth which he was to learn very shortly, he would have ridden back forthwith into Nottingham town, there to end this story at once. Life had, however, many years and queer twists in it yet for Robin Hood of Barnesdale. Bum bum bum. Let's see, we're at 1:15. Let's go ahead and read one more. This will be the last one for today. So this is 24. 19, 20, 21, 22, 24. That'll be 6 chapters for today. So we'll finish out with this one last chapter. For those of you that haven't been here before, hello, my name is Vexen Cat. I am currently reading Robin Hood and His Adventures, written in 1917 by Paul Creswick. This is a book that is a little bit more in depth in Robin of Locksley, Robin of the Hood, his history, his time spent in the forest, and it's actually been a little bit more in depth than any of the movies. The Kevin Costner Robin Hood, the 1973 Disney animated Robin Hood. Obviously, that's anthropomorphic, so it's a little bit different since Robin Hood's a fox in that one. But there have been numerous. Mel Gibson's Men in Tights, Robin Hood. All of them start with Robin Hood as an adult, very clearly an adult. In Men in Tights, he is away, during the Crusades and is imprisoned and has to make his way home. In Robin Hood, he's already living in the woods and has long since had dealings with Prince John, who is represented as a weak-willed lion, and the Sheriff of Nottingham being that terrible wolf in the animated movie. Anyway, I have rambled and I digress. We are actually reading the last chapter today. If anyone needs to take a moment to hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever you need to relax and settle in for the last chapter for today. From Alan and Bill the Duck, or the kids next door villain, Robin Food, who steals food from children to give them to the elderly who don't even want it. Yeah. One thing I have noticed in this romanticized version of Robin Hood is that they don't really talk about like who Robin really represented. Yes, they briefly mentioned, steal from those that are not worthy and to give to those the poor back their taxes, right? They acknowledge it, but in such a minute way, because Robin was stealing from the rich, like he was causing them to have to pay toll all in sundry, so it made it impossible for the rich to travel through the forest. And then in turn, using those funds to prop up the local economy and pay good pay for food, and then also returning the wealth back to the people. And this book hasn't really covered that very much, so I'm curious about the Howard Pyle version, which I'll have to read next year. That'll be interesting to me because I will be covering that one was written in 1887. So I'm kind of curious what the difference between the romanticized UK author writing about Robin and England versus the 1887 American author. That's what I thought was interesting, writing about Robin Hood. All right. I have rambled on. Also, hello, space. You grabbing a snack? Serby Munch. I don't know who Serby is, but they look adorable. Oh my god, their emotes are amazing. Oh man, those are so cute. I'll have to give them a check them out sometime. All right, so we are on to chapter 24, the last chapter for today, and then we will find someone to it we will raid and bother. Okay. Close that. Chapter 24. Whew. That Reed's extra ginger ale is something else. Chapter 24. The time of Nottingham Fair had come round once more. It's only been a year? That's crazy. I'm going to assume that Robin at this point is probably 17, maybe 18, in that much time. What's the best flavor of ginger ale? Wrong, it's cranberry. Cranberry ginger ale? I don't think I've ever had that. Monsieur? Okay. The time of Nottingham Fair had come round once more, and again the sheriff would give a prize. Monsieur determined to make the prize a good one, such as might tempt any archer. He hoped thus that Robin might be lured into Nottingham. He smiled to himself in grim satisfaction, and rubbed his hands softly together. Yes, good, good. To tell the truth, he had been expecting Robin any moment during these last 10 days, and had wondered why he had not come. The palmer should have proved a bait in himself, so the sheriff imagined. But Robin only learned on the eve of the fair the whole truth about the holy man. It was in this way. For 10 nights had Robin waited at the trysting place for sight of Marian, and had waited in vain. At last doubt grew into suspicion, and suspicion into fierce terror. Had Marian been abducted by Monsieur, and did the squire fear to tell him? On the night before the fair he took courage and marched up to the castle entrance, then wound his horn. Wound. It seems weird, like he's trumpeting his horn, but it's just the phrasing is odd. Then wound his horn for the bridge to be lowered. Now, if Monsieur could but have known, Robin would have been easy prey. He rushed across the bridge soon as it had fallen, clangingly upon the buttresses. The same old servant met him at the gates, holding it open just a little way so that he might peer forth. Robin pulled his cloak about himself. I would see Master Montfichet, and at once, he began. My master is in London, replied the man, eyeing him. Did he journey alone? Did not Mistress Fitzwalter go with him? When did they go? Robin's questions came all of a rush. My master hath been gone near 2 weeks. He went alone from here, but tell me who you are, clamouring so noisily with your questioning. I am Robin Hood, said Robin in desperation. And now, for the love of heaven, give me news of Mistress Fitzwalter. She left here on the day after my lord's departure. Hath left Gamewell, Robin gasped. How? In what way? The man snickered. To tell truth, Excellence, she did leave us in strange guise. I have pondered more than ever upon the ways of women since the day. Mistress would have our maids make her a monk's gown, and I was bid to fashion her a staff such as these palmers carry in their hands. Then, with sandaled feet, did she go forth from here upon the day of the rioting in Nottingham when Stuteley and the others escaped? It was upon the morning of that day, the man replied, and I promise you we have not seen her since. Robin turned abruptly from him. Next minute he was running blindly under the night towards the city gates. The sheriff's prize had been announced far and wide. For the best archer there was an Arab horse, coal black, and worth a bag of gold, and with the horse there would be a saddle of silver and fine leather. Also a silk purse worked by the Demoiselle Marie, containing 100 pieces. There were other rewards for the quarterstaff and single stick, but this year there would be no tourney. It was a fete day, and folk crowded into Nottingham by all gates. These had been lowered hospitably and were to remain down all day. The stages had been erected for quarterstaff. There was a fellow, one Nat of Nottingham, who was believed to be the finest player at the game for many miles around. Several had tried their skill with Nat, but he had soon knocked every man of them off the stage rudely to the ground. He began boasting then of his prowess, and had called them all cowards and the like. A lame beggar who had pushed himself well to the front of the ring about the stage came in for the share of Nat's abuse. This was a strange-looking fellow, with very dirty, ragged clothes upon him, and a black patch over one eye. He wore a beard, pointed and untrimmed, and he listened very calmly to the other's noisy chattering. "Come up here, you dirty villain, and I'll dust your rags for you," cried Nat, flourishing his staff. "If you will use a shorter staff than this, Master Windbag," said the beggar, quietly, and showing his stick, "I'll take all the beating you can give me." With scornful laughter, Nat accepted this challenge. The beggar took off his ragged coat and limped painfully on to the stage. They fenced for an opening, both playing well. The beggar, for all his limp and one eye, had a pretty notion of the sport, but he had the queerest gait upon him, and as he hobbled round and round the stage under Nat's blows, the people laughed continuously. Nat caught him smartly upon the right arm of a sounding thwack. The beggar made as if to drop his staff forthright, and Nat lifted himself for another and crushing blow. But the one-eyed man recovered his guard, sprang suddenly on one side, and as Nat's staff was descending vainly, the beggar dealt his foe a back thrust so neatly, so heartily, and so swiftly that Nat was swept off the stage into the crowd as a fly off of a table. The beggar waited the full time for him to return, and then claimed the prize. The victory of this queer unknown was popular. Nat was a great bully and braggart, and many of them had suffered insult at his hands. Therefore, when the beggar went to fetch his prize from the sheriff's own hands, there was great cheering and applause. He found Monsieur seated in a handsome booth with his daughter and her maids, near by the archery rings. Here the shooting was in progress. The sheriff narrowly watched each competitor, and glanced often towards Mistress Monsieur. The Demoiselle Marie had one of her women sitting near her feet, so that every movement she made might be observed. The sheriff's daughter signaled no, and no again to her father, as the various bowmen took their places. The beggar paused to watch the contest. It seemed to amuse him exceedingly. Let's grab that picture here. So we have another one of these paintings by N.C. Wythe. So you can see the beautiful dappled texture of this painting. And here is our hero, Robin. Robin Hood defeats Nat of Nottingham at quarterstaff. The beggar dealt his foe a back thrust so neatly, so heartily, and so swiftly that Nat was swept off the stage and into the crowd as a fly off a table. He is definitely in for it. Like, that does not, I don't know how he's going to land, but it's not going to be pretty. Yeah, the crowd is excited to see Nat fall. I'm actually surprised that they included these two knights here on either side of the painting, as there is no tourney, so I don't know why they're here. Now, if they were holding pikes or something, I could understand, but otherwise, out of context, they seem out of place. He looks agile. He'll and on his feet. He'll land on his feet. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Or take a tumble and, be a little bruised and his pride hurt, but, you can do what you do. The beggar paused to watch the contest. It seemed to amuse him exceedingly. Master Patch was thus for some minutes close to the sheriff's tent. His patched eye was turned towards it, and he seemed to be blissfully unaware of the great man's near presence. But he had taken due note, nevertheless, of Master Monsieur and his cold daughter, and the maid sitting so forlornly upon the hard ground at the latter's feet. One of the Nottingham men, a tanner by trade, had so far been most successful, and, like Nat, he began to be disdainful of the rest, and to swagger it somewhat each time his turn to shoot came round. The prize will surely be thine, Arthur a Bland. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Arthur a Bland, maybe, cried Monsieur, loudly clapping his hands together after this fellow had made a fair shot. Indeed, I do not think that Master Hood himself would beat me today, admitted Arthur a Bland conceitedly. The beggar heard both remark and answer. Thou speakest well, gossip, he said. Here in Nottingham town, yet I would venture to advise thee, were this pretty place in Sherwood and the bold Robin within earshot. The archer turned towards him. What do you know? Old patch and rags of Robin Hood, he sneered angrily. I knew too much of him. I know too much of him, answered the beggar. Once, like you, gossip, I boasted of my skill with the bow. 'Twas in Sherwood, whilst I was walking with a stranger who had met me very civilly upon the road. Says he, if you can hit yon mark, I'll know you better archer than Robin Hood. So I flew my shaft arrogantly. And 'twas a tidy shot, near 200 paces. My arrow struck the mark fairly. What say you, stranger, says I. He made for reply such a bow shot as never I have seen before. For having stepped back a score yards, he yet was able to speed his arrow so cleverly as to split mine own from end to end. Thou art Robin Hood, I said then, and I had fear upon me. What then? Asked Arthur a Bland composedly. For my boasting he gave me a drubbing, the beggar went on, and for my archery 5 silver crowns. Then thou canst bend the bow, said Arthur. Will you not attempt my lord sheriff's prize, old Patch and Rags? Marry, I would most willingly, cried the beggar, but for my lame leg and blind eye. One does not need a leg to shoot arrows, nor yet 2 eyes. Take aim, gossip, and show us how you played the sport in the Sherwood on that day. The archer's tone was mocking, but the beggar only replied that he had already won a prize and was content. Just then one of the sheriff's guards approached him. My master would have speech with you, friend, said he. And so you have met bold Robin Hood? Asked Monsieur, as soon as the beggar stood before him. Well do I know it, the beggar answered, writhing his eye in fiery glance about the sheriff's tent. My body is full sore yet from the beating he gave me. Are you sure 'twas Robin Hood? That I am. He is a slim, slight man with long hair and small, fair beard. If you could lead me to him, friend, I would reward you well, said the sheriff in malicious tones. I will show you the place where we met soon as you will, excellence, replied the beggar. Monsieur nodded, and made a sign of dismissal. I will speak further with you later, friend, he said. The beggar went back to the archer and said that now he would take a shot with him. I may as well win 2 prizes as one, he continued affably, for the horse will help me carry my pieces. Arthur O'Bland was greatly incensed at this speech, and took aim with hands that trembled with anger. However, he made a pretty shot, and a round of cheering met his efforts. The beggar took the bow which one of the archers held out to him, and fitted his arrow to it with a great show of care. When at last he released the arrow, all got ready to laugh and jeer at him. He contrived, however, to surprise them once again, for his arrow was found to be a full inch nearer the middle of the mark than all the others. They shot again, and at length Arthur O'Bland lodged his shaft in the centre of the target. "Now mend that shot, Master Patch, as you can," cried he. "Nay, I fear that I must now yield the prize to you, gossip," declared the beggar, "yet I will even do my best." He aimed with every circumstance of effort, and flew his shaft with a loud sigh. It rose up high in the air as though it must fly altogether wide of the target, and folk had already opened their mouths to laugh, when suddenly it dropped in a graceful curve towards the mark. The steel point struck exactly on the point of the other's arrow, just where it had lodged loosely in the bull, and Master Bland's arrow came tumbling to the ground, leaving the beggar's shaft shaking in the very hole its opponent's arrow had made. This wondrous feat of archery evoked the loudest applause, and had not the sheriff been so foolish a man, must have awakened suspicion in his breast. But no. Master Monceux pompously gave over the Arab horse with its saddle and the purse of gold to the victorious beggar, and then turned to leave the sports. He bade Master Carfax to see that the beggar did not go far away. The sheriff did not mean to lose his gifts so easily. But the beggar was very willing to keep near to the sheriff, and asked very humbly that he might be given a place in Monceux's household instead of taking this horse, which was of small use to one of his trade. "I will accept your offer," said Monceux, "on the understanding that you will take the captaincy of my archers." With such a fellow as this in his household, Monceux felt that he would soon lay Robin Hood by the heels. So he strutted to his horse, and was lifted thereon in fine self-satisfaction. His daughter mounted her palfrey, and Carfax led the beast gently, whilst the maids had to hurry over the rough stones as best they might. The beggar gripped his staff, and limped along beside the women. His roving eye implored a glance from the grey-blue eyes of the maid who had sat so uncomfortably at her mistress's knee. She moved with downcast looks after the rest, and only dared once peep at this strange, ragged fellow. His lips moved, making her a signal, then were shut resolutely. That night Monceux kept open house and grew noisy in his cups. He swore that Robin Hood was both coward and villain not to have come into Nottingham to take his chance of winning the horse and purse. Even as he spoke, an arrow came flying in through one of the narrow windows of the sheriff's hall, and curving, fell with a rattle upon the table in front of the startled Monceux. Attached to it was an empty purse, Monceux's own, that one indeed which had that morn held the 100 pieces so comfortably. "Where is that rascal beggar?" cried the sheriff, suddenly having his doubts. "Where is my maid?" shrilled the demoiselle Marie, rushing in upon her father. "I did not send for her," shouted Monceux, seeing it all. "Haste thee, Simeon, pursue them, they cannot be far away." "Excellence, the Arab steed hath been stolen, and by thy beggar guest," cried one of the servants, running in at the other door. "Even now he has gained the bridge, carrying your new made a pillion, mistress. None may hope to catch them on that fleet horse. They cannot win through the gates. After them, Simeon. As you love me, I never will look on you again if you do not capture Robin Hood and this girl. Mistress Monceux, was quite beside herself with fury. "Alas, mistress," said the servant, "the gates of Nottingham stand wide. Did not my master order it so but this very morn?" "Silence!" roared Monsieur, and unable to control his rage, he struck the fellow to the ground. "After them, Simeon, and take what men you will." Master Carfax had other duty before him, however, for his gentle lady had relapsed into a screaming hysteria. They slapped her hands and poured wine between her lips, and finally her maids had to cut her laces and put her to bed. To be fair, corsetry is heavy duty, and she was probably, yeah, in her frustration and anger, like, well, all right, we're just gonna cut the cord that holds your corset together so you can breathe more freely. Oh my goodness. So Robin Hood has made off with four prizes. No, one prize is for the short staff, second prize for the archery, and the Maid Marian. Maid Marian he's absconded with her on the Arab horse. So, all right. With that, my dear listeners, my Librophiles, we are that much closer to being through this book. And we have read 5 chapters today. Math that correctly, I think. 6 and 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yep, that would be 6 chapters. So we've read 6 chapters today. I'm kind of getting a little burnt out myself. So I'm going to call it here. But in the meantime, let's find somebody lovely to go raid out to. Maybe, let's see. Maybe we can find another reader. Let's see who's in the reading category. Reading fun. Who's in reading fun? Oh, no one? Nobody? This entire category? It's just me? That seems odd. It feels odd. Yeah. Like all of you here are the only ones watching this entire category. All right. Well, let's find someone else then. Who of my friends is on? We've got Darius is doing Truth or Drink. The #1 reading streamer. Yeah, that's a very short list. Oh yeah, Clonk. Clonk would be good. Let's see. Oh, Clonk. How do I spell his name again? I know it's with a Q. My goodness. Okay. Bear with me. Clonk would be a good choice. As long as what they're doing is chill. I don't see any reason why not. Let's see here. That's such a long list of people. I really need to... Oh, man. L:"Q. That's how you spell it. Haha! I found him. There we go. The year of the dragon, the decade of L:"Q, perhaps also the year of Linux desktop software and game development. Oh, that's cool. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, we're gonna go visit. I thought I was already. I know I clicked that. Well, whatever. Fixed it now. Ah, you are also strange and weird. Yeah. Yeah. Search for L:"Q. There we go. Oh my goodness. Yep. Yeah, we'll go with software and game development. So Clonk is chill vibes as a rule, so that would be nice. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Good chill vibes as he does computer programming. That's pretty neat. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week on Monday for more of Robin Hood. So until then, have a wonderful weekend, and I hope you enjoyed the story. So, un momento.